Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Categorically Romance podcast. I am Bree, and I am joined today by author Laurel Greer. Welcome back to the podcast, Laurel. Tell me how 2022 has been for you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here, both just to talk to you because I love your podcast, but also, to talk about the book that I have coming out, which is great. 2020 has, it always feels like it's busy. I have a day job. I'm a high school teacher, and so I've got that going along at the same time as I'm writing as many books as I can. And some of the things I've been working on in 2020, I had an audio release with a separate project from Harlequin, which was it was an amazing experience. Called Turnabout. One of my authors was a Scottish hero, and the narrator did such an amazing job, Gary Furlong. I was just, I love it to pieces. I will always love that one.
Yeah.
And then I have my 2 Harlequin releases for this year. What to Expect When She's Expecting came out back in July, which was an IUI pregnancy book that was cool to do. Best Friend's Little Brother story, and has to do with the Wedding Lodge trilogy I've been working on in the Sutter Creek series, where, because it was a blue collar heroine. She's a contractor, and she was polishing the Wedding Lodge to a diamond shine to get it ready for weddings. And now the one that's coming out this year, or this month, has to do with actually holding a wedding there. So that's lots of fun. Other things from this year, I did some traveling. I took my family to Disneyland in May. After one of the things we'd had to cancel with COVID, because everybody had things to cancel, was the trip to Disney World. So that was a little bit of a makeup situation there. So I was really pleased to be able to do that. And we also got a rescheduled trip to Maui with my husband's family, which was phenomenal.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's magical there. I was blown away.
Yeah.
I was just blown away. We've been to warm places. We'd been to Maui before, but I don't know, now I'm 42, and the last time we went, I was 32, and both my husband and I were like, whoa, we get it more this time. Just it was phenomenal. So also with this summer, I really needed it to decompress after 2 years of pandemic teaching. You know how it is. So that was good, and lots of writing. The one thing about publishing with Harlequin is you're putting out books that you wrote sort of 18 months prior. So I've had a few projects going on this year that will come out toward the end of next year, which is exciting that we can.
I'm excited for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so tell me, I feel like here in the States, there is so much attention, finally, well-deserved attention on the education system and just how overworked teachers are. I mean, there's this, I feel like there's always been a teacher shortage, but I feel like now all of a sudden it's like people are realizing how bad it is. What is it like there where you are?
We definitely have a teacher shortage here. I work in British Columbia, and we've historically been quite underpaid compared to the rest of the country. So we've actually got a whole bunch of union talks going on right now that I'm kind of in the middle of. But I would say with a shortage factor, I mean, I do have a contract position. I work a job share on Fridays, but I'm on call on the other days. And my goodness, we are so short on call people. And it really means the kids don't get the services they need, because so often it's the specialist services, especially for kids with disabilities and kids who are gifted, and all sorts of kids who have exceptionalities. They often don't have people who are trained to help them properly, get access to the services and to school the same way that kids who don't have exceptionalities, it's a little bit easier for them to function, right? So
yeah. It's sad.
It is. Sad. Yeah, you're in education too, right? So
yeah, I'm going through the teaching certification program now. Oh my gosh, I'm doing the science of teaching reading because I've somehow decided I wanted to teach middle school. So, and it is kicking my butt. But I've heard talks about how some states it's so short that they're just they're not even going to require that of people, and I'm like,
oh, wow.
I am stressing out here. No, I think we need to make sure that we're giving our kids the best. We shouldn't just let any random person go into the classroom. So yeah.
1,000%. I mean, I think the best way to address any sort of societal issue is from a foundation of strong education and strong literacy and strong arts and creativity and math and science and all these things. You can't have a society function if you don't have people learning.
Exactly. And I mean, pay teachers more, people. Everybody has
Yes.
a teacher. Oh my gosh. It just baffles me that teachers have to get like summer jobs and stuff to make
Right.
ends meet. Like, you touch the lives of everybody.
Yes.
Just, I get a little
Absolutely.
upset.
Me too. Me too. I'll see a meme that'll go by that's it has to do with teacher pay, and I mean, quite frankly, I think we have it a little bit better off in Canada than many states. But yeah, just sometimes you run across things and it just infuriates you.
Right.
Oh yeah, I have to walk away.
Okay, the last time we chatted, we were
Yeah.
talking about 12 Dates of Christmas, which was book
Yes.
7 in your Sutter Creek, Montana series. And we are
Yes.
now we're at 9 books
We're
now.
at
So
9.
back in the day, were you anticipating the series having 9 books? I mean, we started with From Exes to Expecting. Were you expecting to go this far?
I mean, I think I hoped. I didn't
Yeah.
specifically think that Sutter Creek would last this long. But just there kept being stories there, right? There was a big
Yeah.
gap between From Exes to Expecting and then the next 2 that came out because they were on separate contracts. And so I think when I initially From Exes to Expecting, I think all I could really see was I wanted to get to the end of 3.
Okay. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I've found with both, when I was writing book 3, I could sort of envision the next 3, the next trilogy. And then when I was writing books 5 and 6, I could start to envision the next trilogy. Like, Sutter Creek is all connected for sure, but I do hope that people recognize that like the first 3 kind of fit together, and the
Yes.
second 3 definitely fit together, like books 4 through 6. I like to think of those as the Now with Dogs trilogy because they each have a dog, and then 7 through 9 is all the Wedding Lodge. And I mean, every one of them is standalone. You can jump in at any point, but the trilogies can definitely be read together without having to go back to the beginning. It's funny now. I mean, I'm never going to tell people don't read those books at the beginning, but I do think my writing has changed over time. I mean, I would like to think I've gone a little better.
Yeah, I love when a series like this where I think like the first time I recognized it was I was new to romance and I had read a Sarah Morgan, her From Manhattan with Love series. And it's like
Yes.
6 books, but like the first 3 kind of were its own thing. And then the second 3 were like its own thing. And I was like, I love this. So I love when you can do that with a series. Like, you don't have to read them in order, highly recommend you do, but like these 3 kind of fit together, these 3 fit together, these 3 fit together. It's just so fun. I don't know.
Yeah, one set of trilogies. I mean, well, there's tons of trilogies. Like, I don't know, Talia Hibbert has hers with the Brown sisters. That's a really good one. But the one in the sense of like having a world, but sets of 3 books together, I think of Jill Shalvis's Lucky Harbor series.
Oh my God, Laurel, you're a Jill Shalvis fan.
Yeah, I am. I sure am.
Oh my God, you're right. Because so I binged the Lucky Harbor series like 2 Januaries ago, like just straight through in 1 month.
Right.
And I read them so fast that I don't even think I realized that that's how it was. You're so right.
It is. It's the 3 sisters, and then I can't remember the exact connection between the other ones, but there's a set of friends and then a set of male friends, I think. And they're paired up in 3s.
Yeah. I mean, and I love what she does now where she'll like write these series where like nothing's connected. It's just in the same town.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, we have to talk book 9, lights, camera, ... wedding with a question. Tell our listeners the elevator pitch for the book.
All right. I went back into my notes and everything for this one. So the actual literal elevator pitch is a free-spirited florist is jilted the day before filming her Christmas wedding reality TV episode, and her commitment-phobic best friend steps in as her fake groom to save her fledgling business. When their wedding of convenience reveals real feelings, can they risk their friendship and face past grief to find a lifetime of love?
That is that's how you do a pitch, okay?
It is challenging to write pitches, and
So is that what you sent to them in the beginning? Is that how you pitched it to your editor?
I probably when I pitched it to my editor, it was probably a bit longer. I think I sent her a whole paragraph and then a short synopsis for this one because being book 9, I didn't send sample chapters until I was starting to fulfill my contract. So what that is from the art fact sheet that we have to hand in when they do the cover art.
Okay.
So the art fact sheet is used to do the cover art for the North American covers and any other covers that we have. Like I've got one that's a different one for this book in the UK. And also, so it's got a short 50 word, just that little blurb. And then you can do a 300 to 500 word short synopsis to try and sell it to international markets. And so I have to hopefully once I've written the book, though sometimes it's halfway through writing the book, I need to come up with both the 50 word snippet and then the slightly longer synopsis.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Talk about intimidating. Like this is your baby, you're writing it. And it's like, now I got to describe it to people.
And in 50 words, you're like, no, I took 60,000 words to tell this story.
Okay, but so obviously whatever you wrote paid off because the cover, we have to talk about it. What were your initial thoughts when you saw this cover? Because it is stunning. I love it so much. I love like the camera, like we're looking through a camera. It's perfect. So
you know what's funny? When I saw the first like thumbnail of it, my editor at the time sent it to me and was like, "It's not done, but here's kind of where they're going with it." And I looked at it, and with that camera thing, I thought, "Oh, they're going to put something else in the background there." I'm just sort of seeing half the cover, but I was super thrilled with the people on it because they look so much like Bea and Brody. Like you don't always get it exactly because one person's vision of Tall, Dark, and Handsome or whatever is going to be different from someone else's vision of Tall, Dark, and Handsome. But in this one, I was like, oh, they've got the people right. And also, they look really joyful, which is a really key part of the book for me.
Yeah.
Like Bea provides joy for Brody a lot and vice versa too. And so the fact that was the mood of the cover was great. And then when I got the real thing, I was like, oh, that frame is still there. And then I looked closer because it was a bigger file, so I could finally see it. I'm like, oh, that's purposeful. That's brilliant. I love it. That's so great.
It's such a happy cover. It's such a happy cover. Yeah.
And the fact that, they're in their wedding garb and the mountains are there. It's great. The UK cover is gorgeous too, actually, though. I really lucked out with this book. It's just a single person, a bride, and she's walking down wooden stairs and it's wintertime and her dress and her cloak and everything is just gorgeous. It's always really interesting to see the different ways that they market the North American covers and the UK covers.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And then the Australia, New Zealand ones are actually, you get a third cover for that. They usually use the North American cover art and then they just kind of format it a little bit differently.
Well, it is gorgeous. It's gorgeous. So
I was real happy.
I have to say that, you wrote such an unforgettable prologue. Tell me how this opening scene came to you. It is so interesting in so many ways.
So in the prologue, I don't think it's too spoilery because it's right there in the first 5 pages. So we have Bea getting dumped by her fiance.
Yes.
Which I don't think I had initially envisioned writing that.
Okay.
And so the thing with the prologue and then the beginning of, prologues in general, they're tricky. And so you're kind of cautioned, don't write prologues, start where the action happens. And I was like, well, but you kind of have to see that happening.
Yeah. Okay. Tell me, I want to hear the rest of this, but also I want to hear the tricky part. Why do you say they're tricky? Enlighten us.
I think prologues can be challenging because sometimes it's a backstory dump.
Okay.
Sometimes it's a scene or scenes that the author needs to know what happens in order to know what happens next. They need to, what would go in a prologue would be something the author needs to be well aware of so that they get the characters. But the reader doesn't always need to know that in detail to the same degree that the author does. The author can just kind of sliver it in over the course of the books. And I think a comparison would be Snowbound with the Sheriff, which I wrote, which is a second chance romance. Also Sutter Creek, where the main characters were involved in a car accident together that was really pivotal to their relationship the first time falling apart. So I wrote that scene. One day I'll edit it and put it out in my newsletter. But I did write that scene, and I thought, oh, maybe, this feels kind of prologue-y, but I'm like, no, the mood isn't the same. And it'll be better to sort of feed this mysteriously throughout the rest of the book rather than having it all there. Like, it was better to start with what the character was doing, in this case, Stella driving into town at the beginning, versus with Bee's book, in order for it to make sense why she was with Brody, she had to get dumped by Jason, because that had shown up a little bit in the 7th and 8th books. You don't need to read the 7th and 8th books for it to make sense, I don't think. But it needed a little bit more. And also, I felt like tonally, it still matched the rest of things. So I stuck with having a prologue, but I also didn't want it to be chapter 1, because I wanted chapter 1 to start like once B was free.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. Hopefully it worked.
It did. It definitely did. It's so interesting, because you also, writing category, you have a word count. So it's just
yes,
like, you really have to be on top of what you're doing, because that
Definitely.
prologue could be so much extra, but like in this story, it's so important. But you also manage to have, even in that prologue, like B and Brody on the page together, which I feel like is a rule with category, like
it
get them
is.
on the page as soon as possible. You literally
Definitely.
did that.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, it is usually an expectation. I mean, not every single book. There are a handful of exceptions for sure. But it usually, with category, you expect that by the end of chapter 1, you'll have seen the hero or the two protagonists together. And in this, so I knew that I shouldn't just keep the breakup just between B and Jason, her previous fiance, that Brody needed to be in there somehow, but I also didn't want him to be present in the room, because that would be a little awkward. So that was why, I mean, within the first few lines, you can tell that she is packing to go to Montana, and she is talking to him over Skype on a tablet. And so he's there on the tablet.
Yeah.
And I also realized, like, having someone start off by packing really can tell you a lot about a person.
Okay. Elaborate.
Well, it just, the way a person goes about packing really reflects a lot about their personality.
Yeah.
Like, the way she was packing is not how I would pack.
Right.
I had to remind myself, she's not organized. She's pretty scattered. She can organize herself, but it takes some effort, And
even when she's being dumped, I mean, it sucks, but also at the same time, like, she wasn't totally, you feel bad for her, but also the way that the conversation goes, it's like, you kind of feel for him too. Like, this isn't really what I signed up for. It was a great scene.
Oh, I'm glad. Yeah, no, I mean, in almost every relationship, a breakup is going to be impacted by both people's actions, and not necessarily malicious actions, but just, if you have two people with different priorities, they both have played a role in that, and in ignoring it or looking past it or whatever. So I really wanted to make sure that the reader caught on that, B's going to do some soul searching herself as to how she contributed to her relationship not working in the long run. And also, she needed to realize pretty early on what her feelings were or weren't for Jason, in order for it to be valid, that she would be able to recognize what her feelings were eventually for Brody, right? So, and that those feelings would be able to develop.
Yeah, because she does have that moment. I mean, this isn't a spoiler. I don't feel like it's a spoiler, where it's like, you ask yourself, like, did I really love this person?
Yeah.
I don't really think I did,
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so, like, what were you doing in life that this scene came to you?
I wish I could remember. I
mean, it's been a long time. So.
It has been a long time. And I think I just knew it needed to be a breakup scene. And I knew it needed to be right before she was leaving. So I pictured, I'm like, okay, well, she's still going to be packing, because she's not going to be ready. Like, she's going to be packing up until the last minute. And then I'm like, he's a workaholic. So, he's going to come home late, because he's also been using work as an excuse to stay away too. And it just kind of came from there. I got into their heads, or her head specifically, because it's in her point of view. But I was just able to see the scene play out just by saying, okay, what would she do next logically? What would he do next logically? And yeah, it really was it kind of wrote itself.
So did you know like books ago that it was going to be Bea and Brody in the end?
Yes.
You did? Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I knew that in book 7 for sure.
So you give us this incredible prologue. And I mean, I feel like this is an example of like why I would like to see more prologues, but I also get, hearing you talk about it, like why it can be tricky. So I definitely get it. But I'm just like, I don't know, like I feel like if you can write an incredible prologue, it's just, I don't know, like it's unforgettable and it like just makes you excited about the rest of the book. Yeah. But then we get into chapter 1 and you really set up in a fun way the rest of the story in chapter 1, I feel like. So talk us through like kind of front loading the setup early on in the book. Like, was that a like writing choice you were aware of? Did it just kind of happen naturally? Like you give us the prologue, unforgettable scene, you take us to chapter 1 and you're like, boom, here's what's happening. And I'm like, what is going on, Laurel? You just did so much. And we're not even 2 chapters into the book.
Well, I don't think it's giving anything away if I say that, they obviously Bea and Brody have to decide that they're going to get married in order to show up and be the couple getting married on this wedding show. I think everyone's going to assume that's going to happen. And here's what the funny thing about this is, and I realized it when I was thinking about the questions, is when I went to write this book initially, the beginning was kind of different.
Okay.
I had Bea going to Montana, like kind of with her tail between her legs, not sure how she's going to explain it, not sure how she's going to get out of this contract with this streaming, company that's paid for this wedding, and she's going to owe all this money back. And that Brody shows up and surprises her and is kind of like, ta-da, we're getting married. And she's like, yeah, exactly. We're getting married, which it worked. It was okay. It was fine. But once I started writing beyond that, because that was sort of the 3 chapters that I had sent as the, hey, approve this, editor, because that's usually what you're asked to do, is to write a synopsis and then 3 chapters, and then they give the approval on that. And as I started writing the rest of the book, I realized, I'm like, hang on, she needs to have more agency at the beginning. Like, it needs to be more her decision and her ideas, because it's her life and her contract, and I wanted her to be the one coming up with the solution. So I changed it, and I like how it turned out, changing it, having it be her idea. They figure out how they're going to do it, and then they head off for Montana together with this plan.
Well, you shared in your Dear Reader a bit about why you chose the specific tropes for the book. Can you talk about them here? Why did you choose best friends to lovers and fake engagement / wedding of convenience? And what do you love about those tropes?
Yes. All right. So one thing that was funny about this is I realized this was the first fake engagement book that I had written for Harlequin and I was like, how did it take me 9 books to write one? Because this is one of my all-time favorite tropes. And I think it's just like there is inherent drama involved and questions that you ask right from the get-go as a reader. Because, any romance author is a reader first. And,
right.
We write the books because we love reading the books. So the questions, they're just there about, when will the fake part being discovered? Because not only do the people around them, there's the risk of them finding out it's fake, but the couple themselves has to realize, hang on, it's not fake. It's real. And that's always the best moment. I love that moment so much.
I love that moment.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, this doesn't feel so fake anymore.
Yeah. Oh, hang on, I have feelings and I don't want to have feelings. And it never gets old. Reading that never gets old. And then best friends to lovers. I mean, insta-love. Love some insta-love books. Love some enemies to lovers or rivals to lovers. Equally delicious. But there is something like friends to lovers really touches me in a specific way, and I'll get into that in a sec. But I think it's possible for 2 people to be friends. I think, people who could be attracted to each other can just be friends without being attracted to each other. Whether or not it's men or women, or men and men, or women and women, or non-binary people, or whatever. I think any number of people can be friends without being attracted to each other. But I do also think that sometimes, if you are friends, you can start to develop romantic feelings for each other too. And that's what happened to me.
Yay.
With my husband. We met when we were both just babies, 18, first year university. He has this cute story of, going into the cafeteria in our residence, because we were in brother-sister houses in residence. It was all still very gendered language at the time.
Into the cafeteria.
In 1998. Oh my God, the cafeteria. Oh, it's been renovated since then, thank God, because wow, it was it was an experience. Anyway, so he remembers that we were sitting at the same table because our houses sat together at the same table. And I was talking about having been in a hockey pool the year prior. And I was talking about a specific player or I don't remember who it was. It was Ziggy Palffy, who had done really well for me that year. And he was a huge hockey fan. And he was like so impressed that I knew who that was. We just, at the time, like I didn't notice him beyond being a friend. And we both started seeing other people. And we also were living on different floors. So we didn't see each other a ton. And we just slowly developed a friendship while we were dating a variety of other people over 4 years. And then finally realized, hang on, there might be something more there. And we didn't start dating until our 4th year of university. So
I love that. I mean, my husband and I were like a workplace romance, and I'm
Right.
like, I think that's why I love him so much.
Exactly. You feel a little bit, and I will completely admit that there is, I think it's in chapter 9, there's a little conversation, and, everyone has to forgive us because we were 22 or 21 actually. And I remember we were sitting in the gallery pub at the Student Union building in UBC, and it was probably Wednesday. I think that was cheap beer night at the gallery on Wednesdays. And we're sitting there and we're like, how many beers would it take for us to kiss? Because finally, neither of us were seeing anybody at the time.
Yeah.
We were both single by that point, but we were still just friends. And so, we were jokingly being, how many beers would it take for us to kiss? And nothing happened that night. It was later that something happened, but I did take that story and I stuck it in this book. In a little snippet.
You heard it here, friends. There is a real life gem in this book.
Yeah, I changed the specifics a little bit, but it felt like something that B and Brody would run into at some point.
Well,
yeah.
I feel like these are two like just really big beloved tropes.
Yes.
Within one story, with being
Certainly.
category, a very specific word count you have to keep in mind. So
yeah,
how do you talk us through writing these two? I mean, I feel like these are tropes that typically a lot of times you see kind of on their own. You have them in one book. So talk us through writing both of them.
Yeah, Harlequin does like you to combine tropes when you can, when it works for the story. They're like, the more tropes that work in a story, the better. I mean, there's a point where it becomes too crowded and you just can't deal with them. But I think these two fit together nicely. Especially in this story, it worked. When I'm plotting any book, I usually do have a couple tropes in mind at least. Like the previous one, I had to deal. I was like the IUI pregnancy part, and then the best friend's little brother part. It was kind of a workplace romance, and I always like to take those tropes and think, what is the promise to the reader in this? What are the scenes that the reader is going to expect to see? Things like, with a fake relationship, they're going to see that moment where it turns real for both characters. That has to be in there. And there's likely going to be a time where they're exposed to the rest of the world that they have had this fake relationship. Even if by that point in time, they're starting to feel real feelings, that exposure moment is going to occur. And then with best friends to lovers, there has to be some sort of like, oh no, like, and often with that is that idea of, I don't want to lose this friendship on a relationship that may or may not work, which in the case of Brody, who is very convinced he's never going to have a deep relationship because of what he saw with his parents. The fact, because his father died in military service, it just ruined his mom. He didn't want to do that himself. So he's always thought, no, I'm just going to surface level for me. And he knows he can't do surface level with B. So I pick out those plot points that need to exist. I have a plot framework. I roughly use the 3-act structure, or actually 4-act structure, when you put the midpoint in the middle of it, and plot them in at points like around the turning points and around the midpoints and the where they would make the most sense. And you try and overlap a little bit too. Like if you can have one scene hit 2 beats at the same time, sort of, that can be helpful with the shorter word count. I've never had trouble just writing to the 60,000 word length. I seem to do it naturally.
Okay. Well, do you have any personal, whether it's books, movies, whatever, like best friends to lovers or fake engagement romances you'd like to shout out?
The one that I should have made a longer list, and it's the one question I didn't finish answering.
It's okay.
I realized the one that like sticks out in my mind the most is Kylie Scott put one out that was called Just Fake, and it is in Hollywood, and it's got Cinderella themes, and there's the fake relationship there. And that one, I just remember devouring that book, absolutely devouring
Yes.
it.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. Okay, well, I'll have
Yeah.
to put that in the show notes so people can give it a read.
Yeah.
Okay, let's chat some characters. I'm like, let's
Sure.
do like a
I
character
love this.
study. Okay, which character from the Sutter Creek series is most likely to begin their day by checking their horoscope app?
I had to think about this one a lot. I was like, what's going to work here? And I landed on Emma from 12 Dates of Christmas.
Yes. Okay. Why Emma?
Because she is a diehard romantic.
Yeah.
And I think in horoscopes, there's an element of the fates and the stars that is something that would be attractive to people who are romantics. You know, they're gonna see that idea of the fates as being romantic, and so that's why I settled on Emma.
Okay, which character from the series is most likely to have ghosted a date in the past?
This one was I have two answers for this one.
Let's do two.
One that's serious. So
Okay.
I realized when I was thinking about it, I'm like, Ryan from Snowbound with the Sheriff does ghost Stella very seriously in their past. So that one was sort of a built-in, obvious one there. But on a more casual date, not a we were meant to be together and I ghosted this person forever kind of situation that Ryan did. For a more casual date, I was picturing Luke from 12 Dates of Christmas because I could see him getting called into work. He's the game warden. The hours are really erratic. And then he'd be out in the wilderness with no cell phone reception. And he was not a great communicator to begin with.
No.
I could just see him putting it off. And
it's no big deal. She'll figure it out.
Yeah, going into work, he's out in the bush, and then getting stuck out there, and it's all of a sudden 12 hours later, and he's been dragging through a swamp, and he just wants to go home and have a shower, and he just never bothers.
Yeah, like my bad. Like I got caught up at work. Like literally.
Yeah.
Okay, which character would have the most random viral videos on TikTok, and what would their content making consist of?
This question made me so happy. Because so last year at some point, I started to get onto TikTok, and TikTok is not my favorite thing. I'm going to say I like Instagram Reels a little bit more. Instagram, it's more my friend than TikTok. But I was scrolling through TikTok, and all of a sudden I come across this clip of this decently good looking guy who is holding his German short-haired pointer in his arms, and he's in the kitchen, and he's just got the dog in one arm, and he's holding a spatula in the other, and he's like cooking and dancing with his dog in the kitchen. And I was like, oh my God, that is my character, Lachlan, with his dog, Fudge. Like, he even looks decently like Lachlan. And the dog, German Shorthair pointers are all really distinctive with the white and the brown spots. And I grew up with them. They're my favorites. So I think that Lachlan and Marisol together would have a TikTok where they do TikToks of their German Shorthair pointer, or even Instagram Reels, because there are a zillion Instagram Reels that people have posted of German Short-haired pointers doing silly things.
Yeah. Oh, and people love pet content. So.
Oh, absolutely. And it is absolutely addictive. Instagram has realized that these are the only Reels I like to watch. And so in my recommended feed, it's like entirely brown and white spotted dogs. And on my regular feed, it's all book stuff.
Oh my gosh. Okay. We have to talk like random Reels holes. Like I love animal Reels. So like the last one that I rewatched like 10 times in a row, it was like somewhere in Alaska. And like, people have like those security cameras like facing their driveway and stuff.
Yes.
There were two moose.
I saw that one.
Hiding in these people's driveway. And like one ended up in the back of the person's truck. Like they're just ruining these people's cars. And I'm like, I'm obsessed with this. I can't believe this happens.
Moose are so unpredictable. And yeah, I've seen a few ones recently with moose, and it's hilarious. Oh my God. They're like the bears when they manage to get into people's cars and
yes,
like rocking the car from the inside. Oh.
But like my like hot ones are like, I don't know, people like recording literal just like cowboys like just out doing their, and I'm like, oh, you are a gorgeous man just doing your cowboy duties. I'm like, you are a romance novel hero and don't even realize it.
Or chopping wood.
Or chopping wood. Yes.
Mm-hmm. I've worked chopping wood into 2 books. Actually, no, I did. It was in Snowbound with the Sheriff. I had Ryan chopping wood out at the cabin, specifically because I was like, yes, chopping
So
wood.
we need Ryan and a reel. We're gonna have to find Ryan and a reel.
I'll have to find one. That's a great idea. But then in 12 Dates of Christmas, it's Emma chopping wood.
It is. Yes.
It is.
Oh, I
Luke
miss
does
Emma.
all sorts
I miss Emma.
She was one of my favorites to write, I think, at least.
Okay,
Yeah.
I kind of felt like this would be Emma, but which character would most likely already have the new Taylor Swift album completely memorized?
1,000%. I thought of Emma, and she was my first answer, but because I already gave her as an answer, I'm like, no, I'm going to do somebody else. And then I thought B, because she has very much internalized the "it's me, I'm the problem" line. That is her sort of fatal flaw, is her belief in that. And so I thought, heck, that works perfectly.
Yeah, that's perfect for Oh gosh, you're so right. I mean, you wrote her, so obviously.
You know what's so
But it's funny you said that, because when I was reading it and I was like typing this question, I was like, maybe she will say B, because like that line is so iconic. The album's only been out for like barely 2 weeks, and it's so iconic. So I was like, maybe she'll say B, but then I was like, maybe she'll say Emma.
I think it would work for either. Yeah, Emma did come first to mind, but that line specifically for B is yes. Talk about making TikToks. She would have.
Yeah. All right, which character would secretly still be obsessed with posting on Tumblr?
This one took some thought.
Okay.
And my own experience with Tumblr back, I don't know, the last time I posted on it was a very long time ago, but it was just posting pictures of pretty people.
Okay.
Men, women, all sorts of pretty people. And so I couldn't see any of my characters doing that. So I was like, what else would you post about on Tumblr? And then I thought, hang on, libraries. So I'm going to go with Asher from In Service of Love. He is my hot librarian, and that he still has a Tumblr that he operates for the library. There are a handful of libraries out there, I looked it up today, who still do have active Tumblr accounts. So I thought definitely that. And I also then got to thinking about it a little bit more. And I think given his age and when he grew up, he's just a little bit younger than me. I could see Tumblr having been really important to him when he was figuring out that he's bisexual. Because Tumblr was so important to a lot of teenagers and people in their early 20s and things like that, to find community and find common bonds with people on the internet, that Tumblr as a website would probably bring him some fond memories.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, when I think of Tumblr, like you said, like, of course there were like all the gorgeous photos of people, but like I loved it for like this super angsty poetry. And the like dark academia vibes. So when you said library, I was like, yes, I remember like beautiful library photos and perfect.
Exactly. And conversations about books and and I always loved people I was on there partly, or some of the stuff I like to consume on there, actually thinking about it now, was little bits of fan fiction here and there. And so I think that I was always very fond of the fan fiction stuff.
Well, I saw on your Instagram that you are participating in NaNoWriMo. For anyone participating for the first time, what advice would you give them?
I have thought of 2 things.
Okay.
One, that it's very difficult to write that many words if you are self-editing along the way. It is a project that kind of requires you to just type and not stop, and not to look back, and to recognize you're going to need to go back and change some things later, but that you're going to have a whole story. And I usually do find that once I get to the end of the story, that's actually a better time to go back and edit the beginning anyway, because I'll have figured some things out about the characters through writing the story, and I'll know what I want to fix at the beginning. So what I tend to do is I keep going. I have a plot, a structure outline that I'm starting with, so I know what each scene, for the most part, needs to be. Sometimes new ones pop up as we go along, but I stick to my plot structure. I figure out how many words a day I need to write, because sometimes you're going to be like, I can't write this Friday. I'm going to be doing this instead. So then adjusting the word count so that you know what you need to do on the days you can write. And then I just make notes in the comments in the margins as I figure things out. Like, oh, go back to here and change this to this. And I did that yesterday, actually. I realized one of my characters was going to go on a date with somebody, and that came out of nowhere. I was like, oh, oh, they're going to go on a date together. I had no idea. It's just secondary characters or tertiary characters in one case even. But that's going to change a previous scene. So I just made myself a note that change this person to this person back in chapter 4 and all will be well. So that's one thing. You kind of just have to push through and keep going and know that you can change it all later.
Okay.
And also tracking words. For me this time around, finding a way to track words that feels rewarding, not oppressive.
Okay. Okay.
Or like that is encouraging, not discouraging. I wanted specifically to be able to track my words just for Nano. So I created a Excel sheet in Google, like a Google sheet. I had the dates and then columns for every 100 words up to 2,000 words. And I made them small enough so I could see them all on one page. And then just as I finish 100 words over the course of the day, I fill it in with a color.
Okay.
And it feels rewarding.
Yeah.
To earn a little color. And I have different colors for different times of the day and different places. Like if I'm working over lunch at work, that's one color. If I'm, if it's the weekend at home in the morning, in the evening, or if I'm at home working and it's morning or evening, I have different colors. And I actually found one day last week, I didn't make my total. I missed by about 1,000 words. And I was so mad at myself because I looked at that and I'm like, that is a very ugly white line, just right in the middle of all my pretty colors.
Right.
And I am so mad that I did not make that. Because I want it to be a giant solid block of color. It's silly, I know, but I
love it. No,
visually.
I love it.
And so then I thought to myself, I'm like, hang on, if I write more words one day, then I can make a new color and have that be a making up for what
You're
I
making
missed
it up.
color.
Yeah. Yeah.
So slowly over the month, I'm going to be able to fill in that white line with a different color of blue. So I'll know that it was done later, but it's not gonna. It's still going to be a solid multicolor block of colors. So yeah.
So how are you fitting NaNoWriMo? Because you have a job. Like, how are you fitting NaNoWriMo into your life?
Yeah, I am going to take a few days off. Like,
okay.
Not like there will be a couple of days. And also having a book release this month, I was like, oh gosh, I have a lot of promo to do. And
you do.
So really just trying that when I am doing something that I am focused on that thing.
Okay.
And not getting as distracted. And I've found that with this specific tracking for me, I'm like, well, no, I don't need to hop over and check my Facebook. I want to get another box in my tracking thing. And so just trying to be more efficient during the time blocks I have, because you can't make new time blocks. Yeah, it's challenging though. And there were 6 days this month where I knew it wasn't going to work. So I just from the get-go was like, nope, I'm not going to write those days.
Yeah. You touched on it earlier. Mm-hmm. In the chat, like you feel like your writing has gotten stronger as this series has progressed. I mean, when you look at, from where you started to now, mm-hmm. like this book is just so fun. And like I said, it has so many like unforgettable, it starts off with a bang, literally. Like it's just like a really unforgettable beginning. Like, how do you mm-hmm. feel like you've grown as a writer?
That's a good question. I think I would hope that I've learned how to write a little cleaner.
Okay.
Editing a little bit more and more white space on the page, things like that. I do tend to be an overwriter. I know that's something I will always have to continue to work on. I think I've learned story structure a little bit more. And I also think I've just gotten a little bit older, and that me learning my own life lessons has helped me to shape how my characters will learn their life lessons a little bit more. But it's just practice, right? Like the more you practice something, the better you get at it theoretically. And having good editors and good feedback from people. And I do read my reviews. I know we're not supposed to. I know it's the reviews are not for me. I fully know that, but I cannot help it. And
I totally could see myself reading them. And I know I hear from you all the time. You're not supposed to do it. It's not for me. But like, you kind of want to know. I mean, there are some really amazing reviewers out there. Like you want that feedback. You want to know why something didn't work. So I can totally
absolutely.
See.
So I've noticed some patterns over time of things. And I think just also learning deeper characterization, understanding really how much more important the internal conflict is. The external conflict will be there, plot events. you want to know why that character is doing what they're doing. And I think working with good editors helps with that. And also attending classes. I love conferences so much. And I was just at one in locally, that it's a really big conference that's held locally every year. And the learning was phenomenal. And I think understanding your character's wound and their false belief that they have because of that wound, that's something that came to me a little bit later, probably right around the middle of me writing this series. And I think that's really helped strengthen my characters.
We know you're doing NaNoWriMo, but is there any, and we have this book coming out. Is there anything else coming out from you that we can look forward to? Like, what is next?
Certainly. So, because with writing for a traditional publisher, you're always putting one thing out while you're writing a completely different thing. I right now on the go in various stages of development have book 9 from Sutter Creek, which is Lights Camera Wedding, that's coming out November 29th. And so I'm working on promotional stuff for that, obviously, and trying to get it out there. And I have finished writing the first book in my new series with Harlequin Special Edition, which is called Love at Hideaway Wharf. I made up a fictitious San Juan Island in the Washington San Juan Islands in the middle of the Salish Sea, which is very close to where I live. It's as close to being in Canada as you can get, I think, without actually being in Canada. Harlequin Special Edition, they're all set in the United States. So I was like, how can I kind of be in Canada?
Right. I love it.
Let's go over to Washington and we'll be on an island. So technically we are closer to Victoria, British Columbia than we are.
Technically we're in Canada, but you know, whatever.
Essentially there. But it's also like the most romantic places in the world. The San Juan Islands, which is just a continuation of the Gulf Islands in British Columbia, are just stunning. Like, I cannot wait to use some of my own pictures that I have when I start to promote this series, because I've grown up. My family owns a cabin on one of the Gulf Islands in Canada.
So we're gonna have a cabin story. We have to have a cabin story.
You're right, we do. Yeah, noted. Noted.
And I mean, I need a Pinterest board because your Pinterest boards are gorgeous. I love the boards you've created on
there. Will definitely be a Pinterest board. I could post pictures for days. So this is the location and I love it. And so the first book is actually, it's going to be my first male that I'm writing for special edition, which I'm really excited about. I've written male elsewhere, but this is the first one for special edition. And you have a grieving chef. He's grieving his sister's death, and he comes to Oyster Island to learn how to scuba dive because he needs to cross that off his sister's bucket list for her. He comes across the dive master at the local scuba dive shop, and
romance ensues.
Yeah, romance ensues. I'm forgetting the rest of the line, but the chef he lives in London. He was born in Ireland, so he's an out of towner, and trying to figure out how they can fall in love and then make that work.
I love that.
It's a really sweet story. Oh my gosh. Yeah. It was also really fun writing an Irish character. There's just, I don't know. I mean, not genetically, but way back culturally, my roots are in Ireland and in Scotland and in England. So I've romanticized a lot of that. I think internally, like, man, when the bagpipes start playing, I have like a visceral response. It's like my 1/4 Scottish side is like, oh, laddie, yes, where did that happen?
Anyway. That's going to be so fun. Oh, I can't wait.
And then I'm writing the second one right now for Love at Hideaway Wharf. So the first one's going to be called Diving Into Forever.
Oh my gosh.
Because of the heavy theme with diving. And I have scuba dived in the past myself, so it was a lot of fun to go back to that and remember what it was like to be underwater. There are some underwater scenes that I really loved writing. And he's afraid. That's right. The chef is afraid of the ocean. That's the whole thing.
Oh my gosh. So he's like doing diving and he's afraid.
He has to get over it. He's in counseling. Like, he's not being silly about it, but
I love this.
That's a whole part of it, is that the dive master's like, okay, let's work with it. I want to help you do this. I want to help you do this for your sister. So we'll figure out a way to work through your fear and get you underwater. And so they do. And then, so those I think that one's written, and I'm expecting the edits back at any point on that one. And then I'm writing the second one, which is also two people who also work at that dive, the dive shop there. So,
well, I cannot wait for this. Congratulations
thank
on,
you.
book 9, Lights, Camera, Wedding. It's fantastic. Everybody needs to get their hands on a copy of this book. It's available on Harlequin's website, you guys. So go order it. But then, it'll be in stores at the end of the month. It's gorgeous. I mean, are you happy? Is Sutter Creek done since you're working on a new one?
Completely. I have
Okay.
ideas. Nora and Rafe, I've been working toward putting Nora and Rafe together for absolutely ever. I think for 5 books. So I do want to come back to Nora and Rafe in the future for sure. It's not going to be soon, but I do want to come back to them because I've been dropping little hints about them since at least book 6.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll be doing that.
That is such a Jill Shalvis answer for you. She's always like, I'll never say I'm done with a series. And we're like,
No,
okay, Heartbreaker Bay, when are you going back, Jill?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No, it worked. It worked to try with Love at Hideaway Wharf, putting them out 3 closer together. Because I will have a third with that one as well. It made more sense to put them together. And to release them together and to take a pause on Sutter Creek, but it's not a forever pause, I don't think.
Okay.
I really do want to get to the ranch.
I'm so excited. I mean, I just feel like your books show that these small towns or these, tight-knit communities can still be really fun books. So I'm excited. I'm excited for everybody to get the opportunity to read Lights, Camera, Wedding, and then this new series. I'm so intrigued. I want to be on an island. I want to scuba dive. I can't wait. I'm so excited. Where can everybody keep up with you online?
I am busiest on Instagram and on Facebook.
Okay.
People can feel free to add my Facebook profile or to follow my Facebook page, which is Laurel Greer Author. I don't post a ton to my page. I do post more to my profile, but that's fine. People can add me as friend if they're on Facebook, and but my Instagram is also Laurel Greer Author, and so is my TikTok, though I don't do a ton on TikTok.
Okay.
So yeah.
Any newsletter action you want to share?
Yes. I do have a newsletter. It goes out roughly monthly. And the best way to find that is just to go to my website, which is just laurelgreer.com. And there's a thing in the header that says newsletter.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for hanging out with me and letting me pick your brain about the new book. I love it so much, B and Brody. You have to come back, of course. We have a podcast. You write books. We talk about books on the podcast. So please come back. I mean, let's talk this new series when it comes out.
I would love to.